We are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's CAD Chats. Very excited that you have joined us. This is our monthly chat with designers who are using CAD in real time, and I'm very excited to have our guest tonight because I think this might be the first time we have someone who does textiles and print design and art is an artist, a wearable artist. So that's really cool. So I am going to allow you, Corrie, to introduce yourself. And I'm going to, first of all, let me get my my applause. And then I'm going to put you in full screen. So
Okay.
let's all clap for full screen. All right, take it away.
Hi, my name is Corrie Allen. I am an artist. I'm a textile designer. I also do wearable art as well. I paint clothing, and I've been into the textile arts for over, I want to say like 12 years now. So
Wow, nice.
yeah, yeah.
Exciting. Okay, so first question, how did you get started? I'll put us both next to each other. How did you get
Okay.
started in fashion and textile design and all the art that you're doing?
So it was when I started going to school, when I was in college. I When I got to school, I actually wanted to be a painter. I wanted to go for painting and just be a straight up artist.
Wow, nice.
I wasn't thinking about fashion. It was either be a painter, or I also was interested in computers. So I was thinking about doing computer science. So I was kind of balancing these two different interests and like what I wanted to do. And then I found out that one of the schools I was looking at, which was Buffalo State University, had a fashion program, which I didn't even know. So I checked out the fashion program and I really liked it. And what I really enjoyed about it is that it was a lot of, they were doing a lot of CAD classes for fashion. So CAD for apparel, CAD for textile design. And the professor teaching at the time, she was really amazing. And once I got to about my junior year is when I was taking a lot of courses and learning different softwares like Photoshop, Illustrator, graphics, and learning how to create artwork on the computer. And it was really fascinating to me because it combined my interest of technology and art together. And that's what really excited me about being in fashion and being able to apply it to apparel and put it on clothing.
Nice. Now you mentioned Photoshop and you also mentioned Net Graphics. Is there anything else that you use?
So I use Procreate as well, but that's more of a recent. Procreate hasn't been around that long, so
Mhm.
yeah, I use Procreate as well. I do painting as well. I do hand paint, which is something that's also been more recent over the past few years. Because when I first started in fashion, I started with like a lot of fast fashion companies and wholesale companies, private label, where you don't have time to really paint or draw. You just kind of have to churn it out and
Right.
get the print going. So a lot of it's very digital. So I've been able to incorporate more hand painting, more illustration. As you can see in the background, this print I did all the motifs and everything on Procreate, and then I take it in Photoshop and do all the layouts
Nice.
in Photoshop. So that's what I really like, about using Procreate. It's kind of like it's my new sketchbook, because I used to keep like tons of drawing, I had tons of drawing, like sketchbooks with little drawings in them, drawing like little motifs and things like that. And now I have Procreate, so I keep everything in there because it's just easier to digitize the prints. I can do it from a drawing or painting, but it's easier in terms of like keeping colors separated and things in layers and
Right.
doing things a little easier. Yeah.
Right, right. Now, how often do you use net graphics? First of all, can you explain what net graphics is? And then do you use that often?
I don't, because Net Graphics is it's not really a software that's like Photoshop where it's used by the masses. It's mostly used by bigger companies. So if you're
Hmm.
working or freelancing, working full time with a company or freelancing, that's where you would be able to kind of learn it or use it. I used to work for Net Graphics as a instructor, so I taught the software and taught designers how to use the software to create their prints and things like that. So currently I don't have like access to the software, so I don't use it in my, workflow or anything like that.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay. Um, have you moved into 3D yet?
I've made some attempts. Well, the technology of 3D is moving so much faster than the technology of my own laptop. I know we were talking about it before we got on this
Mm,
call. I have like a late 2015 Mac. I still have like the USB ports in my Mac, which I prefer over, what is there now. But
same.
yeah, I'm a USB girl. I like the old stuff, but it's just kind of like my computer doesn't really function well with 3D. And also, like, I notice it's better to work on a larger screen in 3D because you have like the split views with Clo. I've tried out Clo. You have the split views, and it's just better to kind of balance the two views as you're working. So I've
Hmm.
dabbled in it a little bit. I think what I do like about it is that for someone like me who does not sew, I am not a sewer. I think that it is a really interesting program because you don't necessarily have to know how to sew. You just have to have some basic understanding of garment construction to kind of get started with it. And I also like the avatar. That's
Yeah,
really cool feature as well.
yeah, yeah. Well, whenever you're ready, I'm here. So, what are you enjoying the most about using tools like Procreate and Photoshop?
I think what I enjoy most about it is that I think for me, my creative process, it really helps when I'm more relaxed. And
Hmm.
I think when you're sitting at the computer and you're in Photoshop, you're just like, oh, I gotta, do this and get this, like, get this together. And like, and then when I'm on Procreate, I feel more relaxed. I can just kind of draw and,
Hmm.
do what I need to do and then do like the layouts on Photoshop and lay out all my motifs or do the pattern, the repeats and everything on Photoshop. So, I definitely have a tablet where I can like draw in Photoshop and do all that. But I don't know, there's something about like getting to the nitty gritty, the details, I like doing a lot of detailed work where you can do it on
Hmm.
Procreate versus Photoshop. And also it's just like I have everything linked up. So like I can easily upload files from Procreate to Photoshop and PSD, TIFF or whatever, and then, work from there. So that's what I really like about it.
Gotcha, gotcha. Do you, before I get to there, so what have you found to be the most beneficial? And because you work, like, do you do any hand painting at this point, or is everything digital?
No, so I do hand painting. I think one of the artworks I sent you was like a yellow one.
Hmm.
Like a three different garment samples. That's a painting that I did.
Okay.
So yeah, so that was a painting that I, painted and I had it printed on dye, dye sublimation printed on the garments because
Hmm.
when you're painting it's really nice that dye sublimation and digital printing are available, especially for someone who's a painter and an artist. Like, yeah, you can color reduce stuff. It's just not the same. Like, you're always kind of like, oh, I gotta like sacrifice all these colors and the integrity of my
Yeah.
line just so it could like, be on screen printing. But it's like, it's great to see all the advancements in printing where it's just like you don't have to make those sacrifices. You can, sublimate or you can digital print and you can maintain the integrity of your design and the beauty and the colors of your work.
Yeah, for sure. So then do you have, like, do you feel there are some benefits to using your CAD programs like the Procreates and the Photoshops over um, doing it by hand? Or do you feel like it's just sometimes you like both, but there's great things about this and there's great things about the other?
I think that, I think I like the painting because I think you can get something a little bit more unique with painting.
Hmm.
Just like, your natural hand, how you flow across the page with a paintbrush, you can get some really unique motifs, things that you may not get with a digital, program and things like that. But then there's also depending on how when you're painting, you also have to really think about, okay, if I'm putting this on apparel, what printing process am I going to be using?
Right.
Am I going to be, digital printing? Am I going to be dye sublimation? Or am I going to be doing like, screen printing? And then you're like, oh, well, maybe I don't want to do like 10 different, 50 million colors because it's going to take me a while to clean this up,
Right.
and get it
And very
ready.
expensive.
Expensive. It's just like, maybe you don't want to go in that direction. And I mean, there's a way to paint in a way where, if you just use like three colors in your painting and you just keep it very like clean and things like that. If you use certain paints, like if you're using like like gaucho or something like that, where you when you go in to clean, it's not as time consuming or it's intensive. It's easier to index and things like that. Versus
Hmm.
if you're just doing like all this layering and watercoloring or whatever you're gonna do, So these are just things that as an apparel designer, these are just the things that you think about when you're creating textiles, just the process. And it's just something that, I've had to learn over time as I've gotten more knowledgeable in this field. It's just like thinking about the steps and also having to think about the end about like where is this print going, or where is this
Right.
artwork going, or where is this print going. Even with I have my art show coming up next week, and the show I had to switch from fabrics to, paper. And I had during my sampling process, I had my artwork printed from a printer who did it on cotton, and it totally washed out the color. And I was like, this
Mm.
is not really how the artwork looks. So I had to go to another printer and make sure that they're printing on a vinyl canvas, because a
Yeah.
lot of the colors are very hot and neons and brights. And then I was like, okay, this is what I need to print on in terms of, a canvas, and it is plastic, but like this is in order for the colors to pop. Cotton is cotton, no matter what you're printing on it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. For sure.
yeah.
So, hello to December. Thanks for watching. December wants to know, what software do you prefer for making print patterns?
Uh, that's really hard to kind of narrow down. It really depends on what you're doing. If I want to make artwork that is very clean and just like a very illustrated look, and no type of, you see the artwork in the back has a little bit of dithering. If this had like no dithering, was super flat, then I would just bring it into Illustrator and vectorize it and turn it into like a Illustrator pattern. But if I'm going to be doing like you know dithering and things like that, I'm going to bring it into Photoshop and do those things. I'm not going to bring it into Illustrator because, you know, having to deal with all those pixels in Illustrator just doesn't make sense. So it
Yeah.
just really depends on what type of print I'm creating. What is the aesthetic of the print going to be? Are we going for, a more like airbrush artistic feel, or are we going for like really vectorized, kind of look?
Like very bold and clean graphics, that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
And I've taken, I have taken stuff because Procreate is really a raster program. It's, like Photoshop. So,
Mhm.
there's some stuff that I've taken and I've just done like a illustrated outline and I've brought it into Illustrator and I've created prints as well. So, I'm saying if I do it really simple, I can get it into Illustrator and I don't have to work with it in Photoshop. So it just really depends on what you're looking for in terms of the outcome of your print.
Yeah, agree. Do you have a favorite tool or a favorite function in any of these programs?
So I think I think for Procreate, what I love the most are the brushes that they
Mhm.
have. They're really easy to access and they have a lot of different textures and things. And I really like experimenting with the brushes to create different textures in my work and just to kind of experiment with creating different lines and things like that. So that's what I really love about Procreate. With Photoshop, I really love, you know, I'm a really big color person, so I like
Mhm.
to use Photoshop to, recolorize things and to adjust color and things. I really love the content aware tool. That's like my favorite tool, and especially the new one, the content aware fill tool, which is a newer Photoshop one. I like that because that kind of like if you're putting something into repeat, that kind of like snaps it up, like cleans it up really quick, and like any type of like strange creases and stuff. I really like that tool because before I used to use the content aware tool, but I like that it's like it has all these different extended features now, and you can like
Mhm.
kind of grab certain things. And I like it because I used to use also the clone tool a lot, but I prefer that over the clone tool as well. And Photoshop. And then Illustrator, I appreciate Illustrator because I fill bodies and garments and stuff with prints and do like the CAD boards. So I do
Mhm.
appreciate Illustrator in terms of like you can select. There's a feature where you can select all the same fill color and just like fill in the pattern or fill in the same like pattern into the same garment or the same color. So I like that like ease of Illustrator when I'm doing that type of work.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now I am going to show some of your work and you can tell us about how you did these. Let me zoom in a little bit on this one. Yeah. Okay.
So this was a print that I did for a women's apparel line. It was for modern women who are like if you've heard of Belk, which is like a big
Hmm.
department store down in South, that's the customer, Belk. And this was basically a artwork that I did early in my career, and it was a redesign of some artwork that my manager has showed me, and like I basically took we were using like clip art from like other artworks we had in our library, and also we had like a service, and I just kind of took that and was doing a lot of like shading and airbrushing to kind of get it to what you see here.
Hmm.
And I think I put it on a skirt. I think this was for a top, but I like it on the skirt. So, but yeah, it was. And I also ended up doing, which I don't have that work anymore, but we also ended up doing like embellishments on the flower, like little rhinestones, because that customer really likes rhinestones and embellishments and things like that. So I did a lot of the company I worked with. I did a lot of work like this, very like artsy, heavy airbrushing, embellished flowers, different motifs like the animal skins and things like that. But it was at times it was like, oh, I sometimes it would take me a while to do some of these prints because there were so many things going on in them. But it
Yeah.
was actually a very good learning. Yeah, it was very good learning for me because I really got into like the whole artistry of creating prints and Photoshop things like that.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I'm guessing that you put the print in the skirt in Illustrator.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes, I set up an Illustrator and just yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so tell me about this one. Because a lot of this looks
This
very
one,
hand drawn or like hand done.
it is. So, well, so this was
Nice.
actually from a painting I did,
Oh,
and
oops.
I should have sent you the original painting, but this is from a painting that I did, and I adapted it into a print. And it was a painting that I did, and I had this idea of like I don't know, like nautical and then water. And then I was starting to think about like pirates and like, and I don't know, something along those lines of just like, tribal nautical or something very like, because I feel like nautical can seem a little bit of a boring thing. Like, it's just kind of like you think of boats and, things like that. But I
Right,
wanted
right.
something that was like a fresh take on it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I took my painting, and my painting originally didn't look like this. I just kind of played with it, and I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if this was just kind of like a border, and then like on the top it just had like the dots and things. And yeah, so that's how that one got developed.
Very cool. And did you actually have this printed and made?
No, this one I haven't had printed yet.
Okay.
So I just printed.
Say that one more time.
Oh, I haven't had it printed.
Got it. Got it. But do you think you might? This is a very cool jacket.
I know, I know. I may have it printed. It is a very, very cool jacket. I really like the patchwork in it. And I think it's just a very cool, elevated streetwear look.
Yeah.
So I have to look into it, see if I can. I definitely think I can get it printed. Like it would make a really cute bomber jacket.
Yeah. Yeah. ACNB, thank you for tuning in, says beautiful. I agree.
Thank you.
Okay. And then we have this one. So tell me about this print.
So this one I have had printed. Someone actually bought this hoodie for me. Um, and it was a dye sublimation hoodie. Um, actually a painting, and I literally just put it on my computer, did some like brightness and contrast adjustments, because sometimes when you photograph artwork, well, if you're photographing artwork and you don't have like the lighting, then it kind of comes dark. So I just adjusted the color, and I just had it printed. I didn't even like you know, really change the colors or anything. I just thought it was really great as is. This was part of a bigger collection, really about the third eye, that really focused third eye and intuition. And all the pieces really had like a eye motif kind of going on in them. And this was one of them that I did.
Yeah, I see it now that you say that. I'm like, ooh, I see the eye.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very nice. Very nice. And are these, so my question when I first saw this, I was like, I wonder if she actually took pictures of people in these, or are these like photoshopped or something on where you like add the print on top of, like a white garment or something?
Yeah, so it's funny, like this is because I did this actually through a print on demand company. So they have like
Mhm.
models, your stuff goes on a model. So you have to, the way they work, the company I went through, it's all like engineered onto the garment. So they have like when you go in, there's like a window with the garment pattern laid out, and you basically can
Mhm.
engineer the print onto the garment the way you want. So like, you have control over where the placement of the print goes.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
that's what yeah, which is nice, which I like because I'm kind of a control freak in that way. I'm like, I want to know where it's going where. So, and it was also nice because I didn't have to worry about putting into repeat because it was going to be engineered anyway. So I
Yeah.
just placed it strategically in a way where it looked good on the body. And then after that, when you save it and stuff, they show you like all these, they show you the model, like modeling it in different, poses and stuff. So I just pulled photos of the model, and
Gotcha.
yeah,
It's very cool. Did you do this
thank you.
recently, or is this an older one? Like, do you have any left?
This is this 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 was from was it last year or the year before? But if you want one, I could make it happen.
Okay, we'll talk afterwards.
Okay.
Okay, and then the last one. This is your flyer for your art gallery exhibition in Buffalo. So, why don't you talk a little bit about that? 'Cause this looks very cool.
Yeah, so this is my first solo art show that I'm having here in Buffalo. And basically, I had this vision one day. I was just like, and I was looking, I'm a Pinterest freak. I'm on Pinterest like all the time, penny. I have tons of idea boards for different things.
Mhm.
And I saw this woman on Pinterest. She was a model and, she was pretty, and I was like, I wonder what would happen if I just like started, you know, drawing her or drawing illustrating on top of her. So I just brought her into Procreate and I, you know, put made another layer over her and I started drawing and I started doing like all these different patterns and just like doing these like embellishments and like giving her a new garment and giving her basically like a whole new look. And I
Wow.
was just like, oh, this is pretty cool. So I just kept doing them. I just kept taking these women that were just these like models with these regular, not, they weren't like drabby clothes or anything. They were, dressed nicely, but just taking them and just kind of like reimagining them in this like more Afro-futuristic way, this futuristic way, and just having it be radiant and colorful, and then incorporating my passion for, prints, and 'cause a lot of my background in textile design, you can see it really overlaps into my artwork because I'm like obsessed with
Mhm.
doing patterns all the time in my work. So everything's really patterned. You'll see a lot of the artwork has a lot of intricate pattern work in it. All the women, all the portraits, they're wearing garments that have a lot of intricate patterns. And that was really important for me to incorporate. And it was important for it to be really colorful and bold and very like, kind of capturing like a different essence. So
Mhm.
I'm really excited about the show. And I've never really done like just like I've been doing like the wearable art, but I haven't really done like canvas pieces before, like this in this capacity. So I'm really excited to be doing the show and to like, show this other, side of my art.
Nice. Yeah, it's exciting. And is it going to run for a while? Like if
Yeah.
somebody
So,
wants to come up there and they can't get there May 2nd, how long do we
yeah.
have?
So it'll be there for the month of May. So May 2nd until the end of May. The show will be up. And then, yeah, so if you are in the Buffalo, New York area, come to 93 Allen Street. If you're here for May 2nd, come for that. If not, and you are going to be here within the month of May, come and see the show and see the
Yeah.
pieces. I'd love to have you.
Awesome. Awesome. That is amazing. And how did that come to pass? Like how did you get that?
Get the show. Oh, so one of so the gallery owner, Tio David, we've been friends for a long time, and he approached me way back when he was like, talking to me about a show, like doing a show. And, initially I was just like, I wasn't really paying attention. I was just like, I don't know, like, I wasn't really into doing like a solo show, even though it was something I wanted to do at the time. But, you know, I think finally this year, as these pieces were building, I was just like, I approached him and I said, you know what, I want to do a show at your gallery. I was like, I feel like I'm ready now to like actually do it. I feel like I have something to say, something to put out there. I didn't feel so ready before. I had done some like group shows with other artists, and that was fun too. But finally, I was like, okay, I feel like I, have some solo show vibes going on. So I approached him about doing a show at the gallery.
Nice, nice. Okay, so last question. Um, if anyone is like thinking about textile design and art, and they're thinking about how to start incorporating digital tools into their workflow, do you have any suggestions or advice about how to do that?
Um, well, I guess I'll just give my, what I started doing with, because I just started using Procreate like 2 years ago. And that was a new digital tool for me. And it really just took me kind of taking a few minutes a day, just kind of playing around and drawing things and getting used to the tools. And, so that's what I would recommend for like other designers who are wanting to do that. Just start playing. Like, don't take it so seriously. Just start playing and
Mm,
experimenting and seeing like what comes out of it. Like, you don't necessarily, I have like stuff in my Procreate that's just like weird. And like, it's just like little drawings and sketches. It's just like start playing, experimenting. Even like, when I start painting is also very recent too. Just start playing, experimenting with different paints or different things, experimenting with, you know, you're just experimenting, drawing, experimenting with different tools and things like that. I think that that's a really good tool. And there's also, Photoshop. I mean, it's not like there's this new tool in Photoshop called a pattern tool, and
mm-hmm.
it's like a new feature they have. And, you know, I think it's a nice tool to just kind of play around with, start getting an idea of how repeats work and just kind of seeing
Mm-hmm.
it. I mean, there are some other things I would like them to add to this feature to but it's just like,
Of
I
course.
think, yeah, but I think that like it's good to kind of see how repetition works and
Right.
how things repeat and things like that. But yeah, just start experimenting with these tools, have fun, um see what you create. And um yeah, that's what I recommend in terms of getting into textile design or tools. And then also just like learning more about the textile design itself in terms of
Right.
reading books. I don't know, I don't like to recommend tutorials. Oh,
Oh.
okay. We blanked out for a second. But yeah, just reading different books on textile design. And yeah, that's what I would say. And I think if you're also like have a strong interest in it, it's easier to learn something than if you're not like super interested. For
Yeah.
me, that's what I find. Like, it's easy for me to learn stuff when I'm like really interested and like engaged in it versus where I'm not like super interested. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. For sure. Well, we are out of time. That went really fast.
It did.
Yes. So, can you just tell everyone before we go how to find you online and, and buy your robes? Because I know you do robes with your wearable art. So, how can they find you?
So you can follow me on Instagram. It's Corrie, Corrie Allen, Allen. There's like a little underscore dash in between. And then you can also find me. My website is Corrie um, Allen.com. There's like a dash in between because the other Corrie Allen took the other one, so it's Corrie Allen.com. And yeah, you can find me there. You could also connect with me on LinkedIn, Corrie Allen. So that's just Corrie Allen, no dashes or spaces. So you can also connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being our guest this month. Thank you to December and Jersey Art Productions and ACNB for commenting in the chat. And we definitely appreciate you, and to all the other people who are watching. Thank you so much. And we will see you next month, last Thursday of the month. Bye.
Thank you.